Here's a strange question. If Nike lost every factory producing its shoes tomorrow, every warehouse, every machine, every piece of physical inventory, would the company survive? Most people would say no. How can a shoe company survive without shoes? But here's the interesting part. Nike's most valuable assets aren't its factories or machines in the first place. Nike's real power lives in things you can't physically hold. Its name, its reputation, its trademarks, its designs, its relationships with customers, and, of course, 3 simple words and a curved little symbol. Just do it. And the swoosh. That's the real lesson. Once you understand why these invisible assets can be so valuable, you'll start seeing money in places you never noticed before. Because sometimes, the thing making a company rich isn't the thing sitting inside its warehouse. It's the thing sitting inside the customer's mind. Let's talk about why a trademark can become one of the most valuable assets a company owns. Most of us grow up thinking about wealth in physical terms. A house, a car, a stack of cash, a factory full of machines. If you can't touch it, it doesn't feel like real wealth. But some of the world's most valuable businesses are built around assets you can't touch at all. Names, symbols, reputations, customer trust, ideas, and intellectual property. Think about it this way. If you and I opened 2 shoe stores tomorrow and we sold shoes made with the same materials, using similar manufacturing processes and similar quality, would customers automatically pay us the same price they would pay for Nike? Probably not. And that's where things get interesting. The physical product is only part of what a customer is buying. When someone sees the swoosh, they don't just see a curved line. They instantly associate it with Nike. And Nike represents years of advertising, athletes, experiences, cultural relevance, and customer trust. That recognition has economic value. So let's break down one important piece of that value: the trademark. A trademark isn't a product. It's a legal identifier. It can be a name, logo, slogan, symbol, or, in some cases, even a distinctive sound, color, or other feature that identifies the source of goods or services. Think about the Nike name, or the swoosh, or just do it. These aren't valuable because the words or shapes themselves are expensive to produce. They're valuable because people recognize them. And here's where it gets really interesting. Many physical assets wear out. A factory gets older. Machines need maintenance. A truck loses value. Inventory can become outdated. But a trademark works differently. If it's properly maintained and protected, a trademark can potentially last indefinitely. That's an unusual property in the world of business. A building might last decades. A machine might last years. A patent has a limited legal term, but a trademark can continue as long as the owner keeps meeting the legal requirements to maintain it. That means an asset created decades ago can still help generate economic value today. Now, here's the question. How does a trademark actually make money if you can't sell the trademark like a physical product? One major answer is licensing. Imagine you own a small clothing brand. Nobody knows your name. Your t-shirts are well made, but customers have never heard of you. Now imagine a famous company allows you to put its protected brand or characters on your shirts in exchange for licensing fees. Suddenly, the product can become much more attractive to customers. The shirt itself didn't necessarily become better. The identity attached to it changed. That's licensing. The owner of valuable intellectual property allows another business to use that property under agreed terms, usually in exchange for payment. And this can become a massive business. Think about Disney. Disney doesn't need to manufacture every backpack, lunchbox, bedsheet, or piece of clothing that carries one of its characters. Other companies can manufacture and sell licensed products. Disney can earn licensing revenue because those products use intellectual property that Disney owns or controls. The physical product belongs to someone else. The brand and characters create the connection. And that connection has value. Coca-Cola offers another powerful example. Imagine someone recreated a beverage with the same or extremely similar formula. Toy. Would that automatically make it Coca-Cola? Of course not. The recipe is only one part of the business. Consumers recognize the name. They recognize the logo. They recognize the packaging. They recognize the taste. They recognize the history. They know what they're getting before they even open the bottle. That's the power of a brand. And this is where psychology enters the story. Human beings don't make every purchasing decision by carefully analyzing every possible option. We couldn't. Imagine going to a supermarket and researching the manufacturing process, ingredients, reputation, reliability, and history of every single product before buying it. You'd be there all day. Instead, our brains use shortcuts, and brands can become one of those shortcuts. A familiar name can communicate. I've seen this before. Other people trust it. I know roughly what to expect. I don't need to spend another hour researching this. That's why people can be willing to pay more for a familiar brand even when a cheaper alternative performs similarly. The name isn't merely decoration. The name can reduce uncertainty, and reducing uncertainty has economic value. That's also why the product can change while the brand remains powerful. Nike can change factories. It can redesign shoes. It can introduce completely new products, but the swoosh can continue to carry the same basic identity. The physical object changes. The association in the customer's mind can remain. And that's one reason intellectual property and brand assets can become so valuable. But there's a darker side to this too. When a name or symbol becomes valuable, companies have a strong incentive to protect it. Trademark disputes can become extremely serious. A small business can sometimes be forced to change its name, packaging, or branding if it creates a legally significant conflict with an existing trademark. And for a small company, rebranding can be expensive. There's also a strange corner of the business world where people register trademarks or acquire domain names around potentially valuable names, hoping someone else will eventually want them. But there's an important distinction here. Owning a trademark doesn't automatically make something valuable. A trademark becomes economically powerful when people associate it with something they recognize, want, or trust. You can register a completely meaningless name. That doesn't mean millions of people suddenly want it. The value comes from the connection between the identifier and the market. And that tells us something important about how value actually works. Value isn't always about what something costs to manufacture. Sometimes value comes from what something means to the person buying it. So what does this actually mean for you? You might be thinking, that's interesting, but I'm not Nike. I'm not Disney. I'm not building a billion-dollar company. And that's completely fair. But the underlying lesson applies at a much smaller scale. If you ever start a business, a side hustle, a personal brand, or even a YouTube channel, your name isn't just something you put on the screen at the end. It's part of the asset you're building, your reputation, your identity, your audience's expectations, the trust people develop when they see your name. Those things can become more valuable over time. A product can often be copied. A competitor can create something similar. But building the same reputation with the same audience can take years. That's why the smartest businesses don't only ask, how much can we sell today? They also ask, what are we building that becomes more valuable tomorrow? And this changes the way you should think about your own spending too. The next time you're paying extra for a famous logo, ask yourself, am I paying for something meaningfully better? Or am I paying partly for the confidence and recognition that comes with the brand? Sometimes the answer will be better quality. Sometimes it'll be better design. Sometimes it'll be customer service. And sometimes, honestly, you're paying for the name. There's no shame in that. Branding works because humans respond to familiarity, trust, identity, and social signals. The important thing is knowing that it's happening, because once you understand the difference between the physical product and the invisible value surrounding it, you start looking at companies differently, and you start looking at wealth differently. We're taught to think wealth comes from things we can hold: houses, cars, gold, cash, factories. But some of the most powerful business assets can't be placed on a shelf. A name, a trademark, a reputation, a customer relationship, a recognizable identity, a promise that people trust before they even try the product. These invisible assets can continue creating economic value for decades. Sometimes long after the original founder is gone. Sometimes even after the factories have changed, the products have been redesigned, and the entire business has evolved. So the next time you see 3 simple words on a shoe or a swoosh stitched onto a sleeve, remember what you're actually looking at. You're not just looking at a logo. You're looking at the visible symbol of an invisible economic asset, one built through years of products, marketing, customer experiences, reputation, and trust. Something that can be reproduced physically at almost no cost. Something that doesn't wear out like a machine. And, if properly protected and maintained, something that can potentially last for generations. That's the fascinating part about modern wealth. Sometimes the most valuable thing a company owns isn't sitting inside the factory. It's sitting inside the customer's mind. And understanding that difference between what a business physically owns and what customers believe that business is worth might be one of the most valuable financial lessons you'll ever learn.